Hey, what's up? It is just me. I am Matt. No Keith, no problem. I got 99 problems, but Keith ain't one. Yeah, Keith is preaching and teaching on a Sunday morning, I suppose. And I am doing a live stream for Heretic Happy Hour and then going to the farm to deal with the things that farmers do. Judy, good morning. Hello. Hey, if you're watching, say hello in the comments. Let us know what's on your mind. Let me know what's on your mind. Let the listeners know what's on your mind. I don't really have a plan today. I always have a plan, but not like a serious plan. I just I want to get everyone's read on what's going on. How are you feeling? Especially if you're, an American citizen, if you live in the US, depending on what state you're in, you're probably dealing with some different stuff than we are here in California. But it's a wild time to be it's a wild time to be alive right now. A quick bit of housekeeping. Keith and I don't know if we've said something. We have said something. We have a book coming out together called Reading Romans Right. And it's the most theology I've written about in I can't even remember how long. But it's exciting to write a book with Keith, especially about the book of Romans. So if you want to be on the launch team, it comes out in like almost a month. We'll give you a free copy. We just ask that you buy a copy on launch day, put up a review. And then what we want to do is get people to like email like the Gospel Coalition, Elisa Childers, all those people, and let them know about the book. So maybe we can get some quote unquote negative publicity that way. So if you want to be a part of that, hit us up. You can DM me, DM Keith, send us an email, Matthew or Keith at choir.com. And you could be on the launch team. We have like, I don't know. How many people do we have right now? Let's see. 42 members. So that's good. So if you want to be a part of that, that'd be great. And then we do have a hotline as we've told you about. People have been hitting that up lately. It's 530-332-8020. And you can call, text, give us a comment about a recent show, give us a question, give us a comment about like an old show, like from the Wayback Machine. That's cool too. And then we do have hopefully in the, I don't know, sometime probably in March, we'll have a best of 2024 episode coming up. So you can hit us up on the hotline. Again, it's 530-332-8020. And let us know who your Heretic of the Year is. Who is your favorite guest? Who is your favorite panelist? Let us know in the hotline. Let us know with a text or a voicemail, and get your vote in. And they'll be, if they get the most votes, they'll get the Heretic of the Year. We'll also put a poll in the Heresy After Hours Facebook group. So if you're not a part of that, you got to join that. Just look up Heresy After Hours on Facebook. Now let's get to something here. I don't know. What are my thoughts on the last week or the most recent week in America? It's every day is. I guess the first piece of advice I'd say is just don't get like consumed with the news. Don't be ignorant of it, but don't be consumed. Like I think part of the tactic of any sort of totalitarian or authoritarian regime is just to like inundate the culture with so much shit that we don't even know what to talk about. We just get obsessed with our news feed. We get obsessed with everything. It's like in World War II, the Germans used a tactic called blitzkrieg, and that's kind of what it is. Like Steve Bannon's throwing up Nazi salutes, pastors and priests are throwing up Nazi salutes. You know, they're trying to defund everything. They're trying. I mean, there's just all and it's just so much every single day that you cannot. Don't let yourself get bogged down by your news feed, by your news cycle, but also stay informed because I mean, I'll be honest, like, it's not the time to, like, just check out either. Like, I know it's hard, but that's also what they want. They want people that's the tactic. It's inundate everyone with so much crazy shit, and then they check out because they can't handle it anymore. And that's for them, that's a W. And look, I get it. I understand, take care of your mental health, all that, but also that's a W for them. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to make us exhausted so that like we're not organized, we're not thinking about shit, we're just checking out. We're not a part, we're not engaging. They're on this shit 24/7. This is their whole life it seems like. They've waited for this moment forever to to run shit. Um so they're or the right, the conservative right is organized. They're funded well. So I get it, but also like now's not the time to just bury your head in the sand. Doa dear, hey, hello from Idaho. Hey, what's going on in Idaho? Let's see. Judy's got a comment here. I'm focused on building up my internal stabilizers, meditation, creativity, my spiritual practice. When more excrement hits the rotary oscillator, i.e., when shit hits the fan, I am better equipped to deal with it. That's important. Um, that's a good comment. In the Wisdom of Hobbits, I talk the theme of the book is balance, and the theme of my reading of Tolkien, which take a shot if you're playing along at home, is that I feel like we don't want to go from one extreme to the other. We have to find balance with a lot of things. And so a lot of people I feel like take a reductive approach and say like, "Oh, don't just turn off your news feed. Just go out into nature and find everything you need." And just, well, okay. That's one approach. Or another approach is just to be hooked on our phone, just doom scrolling, right? Getting every news feed, getting every just falling into the rabbit hole of the algorithm. And that's not healthy either. So and an approach I would recommend, and I think my reading of Tolkien would recommend, is like find balance, like stay informed, but also, like Judy suggested, like get yourself right so that you're not, I don't know, worthless is the wrong term, but like the analogy of, you know, since so many planes are crashing, if the oxygen thing comes down, you got to put on yours before you put on your child's oxygen mask because you're going to be pretty worthless if you're passed out. So take care of yourself first before you're any good to anyone else. Judy says we must be involved. I agree. We have to do it in balanced ways, or however we can make it work for us. Yeah. We're not all the same. We're not all built the same. Some people can just go get arrested and that works for them. Some people can um be on the front lines of a picket line or of a march and things like that. Not everyone can do that. Not everyone can literally do that. Some people can literally not march. Some people can. But you got to do something. You got to find what's right for you, and you got to do something. Like if you're not going to do something now, when are you going to do something? Like you got to do something. Whatever we can contribute, and that doesn't always mean like actively. Like you could be a healer. You could be sitting there helping people who are on the front lines. You could say, I'm here for the people that need to recharge their battery. Like, everyone has their place in society, no matter what the society is going through. And a lot of us are going through a lot of shit because we're not sure what the future holds economically or civil rights wise or whatever the case may be, especially if you're in America. But America, it seems like the whole world's going right wing. Like, how many dictatorial oligarchs are there out there? There's a lot. It seems like a lot of places are turning to the right, and that's scary, but also, like, it gives us, I don't know. It's like sometimes you feel hopeless, but also it's motivating also. Um, we're not the first to have faced an evil like this, and we probably won't be the last. Um, I hope eventually humanity progresses beyond this sort of theocratic tendency, um, this authoritarian tendency, but it always seems to be one step forward, two steps back, two steps forward, one step back. It's never a clean line. Um, Judy says she's launching a new project that will be my direct response. It feels good to be in action resistance. Yeah, I agree with you. Though a deer can't wait to see. Yeah, choir's doing something. We're launching the collective. Can't say too much about it yet because it's still there's a lot of moving parts. Like, we're launching a website. It's going to be a group blog. It's going to be a newspaper type thing. We're going to have news. We're going to have opinion pieces. We're going to have reviews. We're going to have it's going to be, as a lot of media entities, especially, like, what do you call it? Legacy media entities bow the knee so that they don't get in trouble with the the Orange King. A lot of places are going to do the opposite, and we're going to do the opposite with the collective. So we're going to fight fascism that way. And when we say fight fascism, we don't mean like our entire existence is to be what we're against, because joy is an act of resistance. Black folks know about that. Hope is an act of resistance. Art is an act of resistance. Beauty is an act of resistance. So it's not just going to be like, oh, this was the news of the day, this is why it's bad. There's going to be that. We need to do that. Again, balance. But we also need to say, this is the beauty we find in the world. This is the hope we find in the world. This is what you can do pragmatically. This is what you can do practically in a day-to-day. So there's going to be free resources. There's going to be subscription resources. There's going to be all sorts of shit. And we do already have like 8 contributors who are some of them are pretty well known, that will be contributing to this. So we hope we could be a resource for folks that do that. And Judy, I'm glad that you're whatever project you're doing, whatever anyone can do for anyone, whether it's helping people get some food locally or get resources locally, whatever act of resistance you can do for every act that is for your fellow person, especially those who are on the margins of society, is an act of resistance. Because what the current administration in the US is trying to do is to take away people's hope and joy. And they wouldn't say that, but the more we can stand with those that the current administration is going after, that itself is an act of resistance. And if that's what you got, that's what you got. It all counts. Yes, Judy. It all counts. Every little act counts. Doa Deer says the focus has to be positive action, like doing what we can do for those around us instead of fighting against. Yeah, however, I mean, for some people, I agree with you. The focus has to be on positive action. Some people, though, like, the language of fighting against something works too. Like, I don't want to pit being positive and fighting against something against each other, because that itself seems like like there are a lot of people who, and I'm not saying Doa Deer, I'm not saying you're doing this, but a lot of people have this kind of like toxic positivity, or this like, oh, if we're fighting against something, then we're no better than them. And that to me seems okay. So to me, that would be like, and I've heard people say this in groups that I run in, but that to me seems like an attack against me, which is self kind of seems self-refuting. I'm not saying you're doing that, but I think we could do both things at the same time. Like we do positive action, we're hopeful, we're joyous, we find beauty in things, we find art in things, but we also fight against something. And both of those things can be true at the same time, I think. At least that's been my experience. Like um Though Deer says I concede fighting isn't necessarily violent. Yeah, see? Violence to me seems like you're initiating something against someone. And I've always tried to distinguish that because I've been accused of like, I guess I'm a type of pacifist, but I'm not really by some definitions. But as a Girardian and as a mimetic theorist, I always try to be leery of my own propensity toward violence. But I don't see force as necessarily violent, and I don't mean fighting against something or fighting for something as necessarily violent. Like someone, the age old argument is, oh, if someone broke in your house, what are you going to do? I'm going to choke the shit out of someone. I'm going to use force to protect my family. I don't see that as violent though. Because violence to me is the initiation of something. Like pacifism to me has never been passive, PASSIVE. It's so I'd want to again it's balance. I don't want to go too far and say like we're eager to find everything to fight against. We're eager to be outraged about everything. There's a toxicity to that as well. But again, it's in the context of balance. There's a lot to fight against right now. We don't want to become the demon that we're fighting against, but also we can't just be like, oh, just do everything, just not see it and not put up resistance towards it. So Doa Deer again, I have a toxically positive MAGA son. So yeah. Yeah, there does seem to be a toxic positivity within MAGA. And it's generally towards the leader. Julie has a long comment here. Let's see if it all shows up. Yes, good. Do not have conversations with conservatives. Okay, I'll read more before I comment. Did that yesterday with my parents. My mom says she has never been more happy since her president was elected. Her words. Yet she seems fearful, crazy, and terrifying. They are okay with people being rounded up. I was brought to tears, but I was a dumbass to engage. Love your take on it. Be joy and love to neighbors. What a simple construct. And my parents cannot see that. Basic love and quietness about our spirit. Yeah, it's tough. Like there's certainly a time and a place to not be involved with people's lives. I've removed and distanced myself from my own family. And I'm going to leave your comment up so people can read it. But I've distanced myself from family because some of it's not worth having conversations. And I concluded that just because I live in the nostalgic universe where I grew up with certain family members doesn't mean that applies today. And if you're going to support someone, you're going to fly a flag, you're going to wear the merch, you're going to do the whole thing. And you can't sit there and have a decent and reasonable conversation about what that means. Like the guy you support has 28 allegations from women that he essayed them. There's grape allegations. I don't want the algorithm to get pissed off at me. So I'm using coded language here. There's allegations that he is a PDF file. And I'm not going to have conversations with you about that because it's not about politics at that point. If you support someone who did that, I got nothing to say to you. And I might never have anything to say to you. So, Julie, I feel you. Like, there are certain people, and I mean, at this point, like, if you still support this, whether you're a Christian or not, like, most of my advice would be to distance yourself from that, because our lives are short and our energy is low once we get past 40, especially if you're like me. And I ain't got time for that. I don't got time to waste on people who are not going to stand for something. In Hamilton, the phrase goes, "If you stand for nothing, what do you fall for?" And at this point, if you support Trumpism, MAGA, like, you don't stand for anything, and you've fallen for the greatest lie. Um, so yeah, I feel you. Like, it's a balance. Like, there are some people totally not worth talking to, and it's just a waste of your time. And it'll likely not impact anything. And what will it take from you? Because all the all the time you spend on people who ain't gonna listen to you, that's time you're not spending on people that you probably you're closer with, people who are really your friends. And personally, I ain't got time to do any of that shit. Like, I'm not gonna waste time, even if our DNA is the same. You know what I mean? Um, so that's tough. Doa Deer says, I got rid of chronic suffering from pain by learning not to fight it, but rather to accept it what it is. Fight is a word that triggers me. Yeah, yeah, I got you. Yeah, it can be it can be kind of a toxic word. It reminds me, I think of like the Nietzsche quote, where basically, like, if you go against something for so long, like, you have a risk of becoming it. Like, don't stare into the abyss too long, lest you become, you know, I'm butchering it, but you become the thing you fight against. And then I mean, so I get it, but like, yeah, we all have our words that trigger us and the things that trigger us. We even have people that trigger us. Like, um, so it's good to acknowledge the things that do trigger us. That's for sure. Um, Julie says, yeah, 3 hours of my life I can't get back. Yeah. I mean, look, like, I spent 3 years as a social service coordinator getting folks who are in HUD housing services, whether it's SNAP, food benefits, Medicare, Medi-Cal stuff, low cost internet, low cost, energy subsidies, all that stuff, right? So that was my job, is to coordinate social services for folks. And then those folks would hear everything I had to say and then turn around and voted for Project 2025, which strips themselves of the benefits that they get to live, including their housing. And now I don't do that anymore, but now they're at risk based on their own endorsement. And it's like, a lot of my job was spent, like, until I was blue in the face, explaining to them and trying to come at it from not a political angle, but from like well, okay, so if this happens and they get the things that they're saying they're going to do, you're going to lose this benefit and this benefit and this benefit and this benefit. And that adds up to X amount of dollars, and you make X amount of dollars per month. How are you going to fill in the gap? Like, that's not a political question. That's just me saying, like, look, this is what they want to do. This is your current status. This is going to leave a deficit for you per month. How are you going to make it work? And they still voted for him, right? Like, so the more time we spend on people who aren't going to listen is the more time we're just wasting our breath. So I feel you. Um, I feel you. Doe dear, I'm okay with getting over it. Yeah, good. That's important. Julie, religion and politics. I almost had to take a gummy, but had to go to work. Yeah, be careful on the gummies though, because if it's a cannabis gummy, the edibles can turn on you and make anxiety even worse. I feel like with smoking or whatever, like I don't really get that, but if you eat it and then you have to go to like a MAGA rally, it might turn on you. It just might. Elaine says, yesterday I just got fed up with a MAGA propaganda post. I haven't replied to these posts ever. Yesterday I did. People in my Ruby Red area need to know they are not alone. I need to know I'm not alone. Yeah, Godspeed and you Black Emperor. Yeah, I mean, shit. You got to do what you feel right is right in your soul. Like I can't say, "Oh, don't reply to any of them," and I can't say reply to all of them. Like again, balance. Like I would generally recommend do not engage in the comments. It's a fucking cesspool and it's there to bait you. That's probably true, and I fall for it sometimes too. And then I'm like, fuck it, that was not worth it. But like you just said, people need to hear this shit. We need to have a voice. We need to say stuff that we feel is right. So it's finding balance and like, as long as you cannot personalize it and internalize it, then comment away and go hog wild. The minute we take it home with us, the minute we can't flush it out the door. And I learned this as when I was in social work as a young person, being in group homes and working with foster kids. You had to flush at the end of your shift. You cannot take even the hardest shift home with you. You just can't. Otherwise, you're going to burn out in like 10 seconds. We had staff quit. They'd get hired, and like 2 weeks later, they'd quit because it's too hard. And life is hard for a lot of people. And when you work with folks who have faced all this traumas, like, you have to balance it. You have to care for folks, but also you cannot bring it home. And that's a hard thing to do, is to kind of split yourself like, but it affects me. Well, but flush it, become hardened in a way. So if you're going to engage with shit, you got to know like people are going to say some triggering, horrific shit to you. And you got to know yourself, like, can I deal with that today? And tomorrow you might be able to, today you might not be able to, and you got to just gauge it for yourself. That's what I found. I used to engage a lot more online than I do. And people probably notice, like, I even positive, like, I just don't have, I don't have time. Like, if there's a lot of comments, like, I can't engage with everything. But also, like, I'm not going to go looking for a fight in that context, because it just becomes like, it can become just so draining. It could just suck your whole day away. Let's see what Peggy has to say. Shout out to Peggy. I've known Peggy for a long time, at least online. A friend who told me that at a family night, drag queen bingo at a church grieved the heart of God. I told her if she voted for the felon, the adjudicated rapist. Sorry to say that word for those that trigger you. Don't you dare tell me what grieves the heart of God. Haven't heard from her since. That's a fact, though. Thank you for saying that, Peggy. That's a fact. Like, can we? For one, drag queens don't do anything to kids or anyone. When's the last time you heard about an essay from a drag queen or even a trans person? But how many of you hear about pastors or conservative writers? Or, I mean, you hear them all the time. And that's not to demonize conservative people. It's just to say, what's the phrase in the Bible that Jesus says in the Synoptics, I believe? Like, clean off your own porch before you got something to say about your neighbor's porch. Right? And conservative Christians seem to really want to go after LGBTQ folks, drag queens, about the children. Protect the children. But it's the conservative pastors and priests and that are messing with children. Like, drag queens aren't doing that. I know a bunch of people in the drag community. Like, there's just not, you don't see those news stories, and it's not being covered up. It just doesn't happen. And it's like, sometimes the people that yell the most are the people, they're like, think about the thing that you get the most mad about. Often it's the thing you're doing, right? Just in general. And so when thou dost protest too much, like, you have to think, like, why are you so passionate about that? No one's life. I try to seek out people who are in the drag community, trans community, to try to hear from folks like that, because it's a perspective that's not majority, and you want to elevate those voices and give all that stuff. And it's still hard to find because it's a minority. Like, it's hard to find folks like that. I can think on two hands how many trans folks I know based on this show and engage, like, and I got to seek them out. And conservatives act like there's just drag queens and trans folks going around. When have they harmed you? Have you lost income because of them? No. Have you lost your house because of them? No. Have you lost your car because of them? No. Have you missed a credit card payment because of them? No. Have your kids gone missing because of them? No. So what's the problem, right? Let's get to some more comments. Judy says, I keep my dose low. That's always smart. Got to be careful. I know some people who can take like 100 milligrams and functions somewhat. I do about 20 to 25 on the edibles, and then after that, I'm just gonna do that while I'm in my house. My house. My house. I ain't going anywhere after 20. Elaine says, this was a post made by a friend. I am tired of not calling out the BS. Well, then do it. Then go hard on them. Like, look, I'm a Kendrick Lamar fan. Like, Kendrick has taught me that I am not a good enough hater. There's a big difference between lying and hating. I'm the latter, not the former. I'm not a liar, but I am a hater. If look, like too many people, I will agree with you, Elaine. Too many people play that diplomatic role. Now, Jesus wasn't a diplomat when he was flipping tables and when he was calling people out. So if you want to play the Jesus, like, look, a lot of good, you can get into some good trouble if you could afford that. Doesn't come without consequences, but get into some good trouble. I get into good trouble all the time. I think it's good trouble. So yeah, I think I'm tired of not being able to truly speak your mind. Out of fear of like, oh, what are they gonna think? What is my friends gonna think? What are my family gonna think? Sometimes I want to be like, fuck them, say it. But again, balance. Like, say it if you feel like you can deal personally and spiritually and internally with the consequences, because there are some. AA says, keep your own side of the street clean. I love that. And if your neighbor needs help with their side, go for it, but don't be judging them on it. Elaine says, I find most folks around me are spewing faux news, Fox News, talking points. They're anger centers that have been activated by sheer coverage on Fox. Yeah, like, because again, like, no one in the LGBTQ community is taking away your business. No one is taking away your right to thrive. No one from the LGBTQ community or black folks or brown folks got your cable shut off, got your car repossessed, took away your right to go to a school or to get a job or to do this and that. They're just spewing, they're being told what to hate and they're hating it. But it doesn't affect their lives. It doesn't affect their lives. No drag queen has showed up on their house to give them a tract that tells them they're going to go to hell unless they become drag. I just got a Bible tract the other day when I was working about, oh, do you know where you're going to go to heaven? How about all that shit? And I was just laughing at it. I've never had an LGBTQ person tell me, hey, you got to get right with the gay God. Otherwise, you're going to burn forever in hell. You gotta do this and that. Otherwise, you're going to do this. You're going to have these consequences. Never. So no one, they're being told what to hate. And then they're repeating those talking points and they hate it because they're told, but they don't. The reason they glom onto it is because they aren't friends with people in those communities they're told to hate. They don't know Muslim people. They don't know gay folks. They don't know trans folks. They don't know black folks. They don't have true friends in those communities. Because if they did, they would say, Fox News and people like that are telling me this is what they are like, and then my friend fill in the blank is not like that. And so they have a dilemma of being told what the truth is and knowing experientially that the truth is not that. And it doesn't fit. But they don't have friends in those communities, so everything fits because they can just assume. Let's see what Julie has to say. That is the other scary shit with my parents. Jesus spoke to the Jews and Paul was for us Gentiles. What the hell is this shit? So when I was talking about Jesus' teachings, they were not as important as Paul's. Jesus' murder is all Jesus is to them now. What the hell? And I would say, I would add to that Paul is misread so much because Paul was decidedly Jewish and was never not Jewish. And that's why we wrote Reading Romans Right, because that's the book that Christians in these homophobic camps look to. That's one of the main books to push their ideology. And to us, Keith and I, like, that's a great irony because that was the opposite intent Paul had. But yeah, it does seem that Christianity is really a Pauline religion and a certain interpretation of Paul, and really doesn't have much to do with Jesus, who was an immigrant, was an asylum seeker, was brown, did unhoused, did not fund his own ministry, was anti-wealth, was anti-capital, was like, I just always tell conservative Christians, like, pick a different guy. Pick a different guy, because this Jesus guy is not the mascot you think he is. Let's see what Donna has to say. My daughter's store hosts drag queen story hour. That's cool. Christians and Proud Boys have attacked families entering the store. She had the FBI there due to a bomb threat. Christian protesters hold up signs with images of mutilated penises. Yeah, that's horrific. Yeah, what else, what is there to say? The goats who go to hell in Matthew 25 are these folks. Jesus, 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 Jesus on Sunday, and then they act like this every day of the week. Yeah, they're using Jesus as a cover for their own sins, I would say. If you always try to throw that Christianese back on them. Like, okay, this is their sin and they're unrepentant about it. And so I would wonder where they think they're going as unrepentant sinners. It's easy to call out because facts do not exist with MAGA folk. Well, the alternative facts do. Yeah, it really doesn't. We're in like a post-fact world. Karen says the whole machine is driven by fear and lies about the others. Yeah, this is why we need to know people not like us. Sorry to use a Kendrick line. Yeah, we will all, like, I will never know what it's like to be a black person. I will never know what it's like to be a woman. I will never know what it's like to be trans. I will never know what it's like, fill in the blank, right? And so therefore, I will always come with blind spots. It's built into the factory settings here, right? And so we need to have empathy. And now Christians are talking about the sin of empathy, which is wild, right? If you have empathy and you know people and you listen to people who are not like you, you are less prone to believe the lies. It's contact hypothesis. I had to become friends with people not like me and people that I am prejudiced towards. I have to become friends with someone in that community so that I can see again that this lie that was told about them is not true. It's at least not true about my friend, right? So there's one person in that community at least who that lie is not true about. So if there's one, if I'm listening to my friend, they'll be like, well, a lot of us are not like that. Most of us are not like that. 99% of us are not like that. And then we start to listen to it. But now we're putting up the wall within Christendom of, well, that's the sin of empathy. Dear God, like, just chuck out everything in your faith. Just chuck it all out. Your faith doesn't mean anything. Jesus will say to these folks, get away from me. I never knew you. You don't know Jesus if you're going to reject other people and reject empathy itself. Empathy is, as Derek Day has said on this show before, empathy is one of the main ingredients of love. It's like the key ingredient. Like if you're going to make bread, you need flour, yeast, right? Like if you're going to make sourdough, you need starter. If you don't have empathy, you don't have the basic ingredients for the thing you're trying to make. Julie says, yes, he is, and I cannot wait for that book. Well, good. Julie, if you're not on the launch team, come join us on the launch team and ask me how. Reading Romans Right comes out in less than a month. I'm excited for that book too. I think it's really good, but I helped write it, so I'm biased. Cannot wait till Reading Romans Right comes out. Yeah, me neither. Elaine says, yes, we all need to know folks not like us. Yes, exactly. And we do. We do. Even the people who are bigots know gay people or trans folks. If they don't know that they're gay or trans, it's a them problem because they're not trustworthy enough to know or to be told that. I remember my in-laws found out I was bi because of someone else. There was some hot tea and the tea had to be spilled. And then the big argument against me was like that they had to find out publicly. I said, because I don't trust you enough to share that with you. And you can find it out when you find it out. But me not telling you is a you problem, not a me problem. It's I don't trust you. It's the Future and Metro album. We don't trust you, Drake. We don't trust you, in-laws. Like, you know gay people. You know trans people. You're not their friend. They don't see you as a friend. They don't trust you enough to tell you. That's the fact. You've shared a public bathroom with a trans person, whether you like it or not. And I know the listeners here are not like that. But if you're talking to a MAGA person, you're talking to a conservative Christian, you can tell them you've shared a public restroom with a trans person or a non-binary person. You know someone who might be trans or non-binary. You might go to church with them. You might work with them. You might whatever with them. You might volunteer with them. If they're out and you don't know that, that's because they don't want to talk to you about it. I know folks who had to have mediation because the people didn't trust them because they flew a Donald Trump flag and they couldn't understand, why don't they trust me? Because you fly the flag of someone who 28 women accused of SA. The things you promote matters, and people aren't going to trust that. So if you want to be friends with people in other communities, you got to be trustworthy. Yes, Doa Deer, Sin of Empathy, give me a break. I have seen it. I swear to God, especially after that Bishop Buddy sermon went viral. This is the new thing. This is also them calling Jesus' words woke. It worked for him then, but this is Lauren Boebert saying if Jesus had an AR-15, he wouldn't have been. I thought the whole thing was that Jesus had to die for our sins. If he had an AR-15, you wouldn't be able to go to heaven because you're a sinner and no one died for you because Jesus blew them all away with an AR-15. I was told that story as a little child, that Jesus had to die for my sins so that I could be spared the wrath of God. I no longer believe, again, reading Romans Right, sorry to plug the book, I no longer believe that narrative, but they do. So if Jesus had an AR-15, you would go to hell because no Messiah came to die for you. Lauren Boebert. Doa Deer says, I saw some, quote, a trans person shit here stickers for toilets online yesterday. Almost ordered some. A trans person shit here. Yes. A trans person shit here. Yeah, shit jokes. Everyone shits, man. I just don't understand. I saw a joke from a gay comedian talking about how these folks think about gay stuff more than any gay person. They think about gay shit way more than gay folks. The gay agenda is I gotta balance the budget. in my home. We got to grocery shop. We got to pay the bills. We got to raise the kids. We got to figure out what to watch on Netflix. We got Handmaid's Tale coming up. We got to watch that in April. The gay agenda is the fucking human agenda, is the fucking just living my life agenda. Like, that's like, we all shit, we all fart, we all eat, we all got bills. Stop spending more time on LGBT stuff than the LGBTQ community, conservative folks. Lauren Boebert should reread the Bible. Yeah, it all comes down to hermeneutics, right? It all comes down to our lens that we bring to the text. Because we're all going to insert ourselves and our own agenda into the text, especially if we're in that conservative world, right? Those of us who the Bible is not my guidebook for life, I think then we have a better opportunity to just read it for what it is, as a piece of literature, as important, as historical, all that, but not a guidebook for life. Like, not something that it's no more important than Lord of the Rings. I'd say Lord of the Rings is more important, but I'm biased. Judy was told that BS too. Yep. I think we've all heard that stuff. Told the same BS about Jesus dying for my sins. Yeah, and I was told that no other king but Jesus. And now Donald Trump posts that long live the king, and they're all like, here, here. I thought no other king but Jesus. Y'all are literally you're trying to make me believe the Left Behind narrative that I left behind long ago. Where a man with you got to get the mark on your forehead, make America great again, he took a headshot, a head wound, came back from it, all the shit that is in there is about this motherfucker, even though I don't believe it anymore. He would deceive the elect. He would take Christians away and they would bow down to him, and he'd be the antithesis of the gospel. And y'all are really trying to make me believe that again. And I left behind 20 years ago. I stopped believing in the rapture, about 20 years ago. Hell, about 15 years ago, maybe. At least, 10 to 15 years ago. And they're trying to bring it back. I'm like, y'all can go to hell and leave my ass behind. Judy, it's idolatry. Yes, it's idolatry. This is why I keep coming back. I mean, the Bible warns about all this shit. She couldn't spell hermeneutics, let alone know what it means. Did you see the White House correspondent who's was it the press secretary who spelled the title correspondent wrong? They hate DEI, but they love it when it happens for them. They are all the DEI hires. Donna says the parts of the Bible or any other book that inspires us to be kinder and more loving are the true parts. Any part that excuses hatefulness is lies. I agree with that for the most part. For the most part. I don't know about always being kind, though. I don't know about that. I don't know. Was Jesus being kind when he flipped the table? When he drove out the animals? I don't know if it's not that he's being unkind. It's just like kindness didn't seem to fit into that at that moment. Like, I ain't thinking about kindness right now. I'm not being unkind. I'm just gonna I agree with you though. Hatefulness of people is different than hatefulness of systems that exploit people. So I just always want to make that distinguishing thing here. I think there's a time and a place to hate something. Like, I hate bigotry, but I don't necessarily hate or wish ill on the bigots. I wish that they'd have a Pauline experience, get blinded for a second, and then have the scales fall from their eyes, right? So, just to throw that out there. Doa Deer, now some Christians are saying loving your neighbor is taking them out if they are, insert anything not cis and white. I heard that I saw that the White House put out like an ASMR video of people getting deported. Imagine that. Christians probably cheering along. Karen says Jesus was kind of the abused in that scenario. They were being manipulated and taken by the religious. Yeah, yeah, and being kind to the marginalized looks like hatefulness to the system and the players of the system and the people who engage in the system. And I mean, we all do, but the people at the power structure of the system. Just like giving rights to the marginalized looks like taking away rights to the people in power. So good comment there, Karen. I agree with that. Julie says, my parents handed me a book from another white evangelical male. Gross. Blech. She was mad I bought Rob Bell's book. How dare you? Love wins for my son at Bob Jones University. Yep, my poor kid is at toxic pool swimming. I was the quiverful kind of girl 5 years ago. I voted for the dumbass the first time. Oh, wow. Well, yeah, I have a Bob Jones mug, ironically. Yeah, for some reason, Love Wins really got people, got them all up in their feels, man. I went to a church that loved Rob Bell with the Numa videos, right? Because he was Christian and evangelical and decidedly on their team, but he did it artfully, right? It wasn't kitschy. Like his videos were actually good. Like they were shot well, the audio was good, like what he was saying was good. It didn't seem like Christian art, it seemed like art. And then he wrote Love Wins, and I had a pastor who got rid of everything Rob Bell. He broke up with a wife, right? Like got a divorce, got rid of their shit, their pictures, all the shit. delete. This is before cell phones and delete. You know what I mean, right? Like scrubbed Rob Bell. The response to Rob Bell was just hilarious to me because he's not even like strongly opposed to, especially when Love Wins came out. Love Wins. Uh, he was not. He was still decidedly like evangelical. He just had questions, and the response to him, and the strength of the response to him was just hilarious. Um, totally out of that pool. I have 2 kids there. I'm sorry. That sucks. Yeah. We raised our daughter pretty, like, non-religious in that way. But what's interesting is, like, she has actually, as she's gotten older and she's a teenager now and, Jesus, going to high school. We just went to a high school thing, for incoming freshmen. Oh, Lord. Um, and what's interesting is that because she doesn't understand the religious trauma and the trauma that comes from religion and the things like my wife and I have had to unpack and deal with, like she is much more tolerant, even though she's not a Christian. She doesn't even know she believes in God. Like it's much more tolerant of those who do, and like to hear them and so it's interesting, like that when you like if we forced it upon her, I'm sure she would fight against it, right? Um, and in not telling her what to think, or she's more open to a truly good news message. Now, she's not going to fall for the bullshit of evangelicalism and white evangelicalism and all that. But the irony is that she would be at this point being raised non-Christian, would I'm sure be more predisposed to accepting the actual good news of Jesus, like that Jesus is for you, whether you're an immigrant, whether you're gay, whether you're brown, whether you're black, whether you're trans, whether you believe in him or not. Just be truly human, right? And someone would be more inclined to believe the gospel if they're not raised Christian, in my mind. I think they're more disposed to, if you're raised rigidly Christian, to reject it once you become an adult, once you transition to adulthood and you no longer have to agree with the parents' view or whatever. BJU, Bob Jones U, is cutting tons of employees because they're losing enrollment numbers fast. Good. Fuck them. And I hope the same thing is true of Liberty. And I hope the same thing is true of Moody and Dallas and all those fucking places. They'll probably blame gays or liberals or something. You know. It's like in Christianity, we always read it's how do you read yourself a lot of times? Christians like a lot of Christians seem to want to read themselves as like the good guy of the story. And so everything that goes against you is just the devil's attack or the enemy. And really, you need to read yourself as the bad guy of the story. You're the hypocritical asshole that is being rebuked for being too pious and religious in your own mind, and then distorting that message and hammering down on people. That's you as the Christian. James Allison calls it you're the perpetually repenting or repentant victimizer. You're always repenting of your victimization. That's what it means to be a Christian. So if you victimize people and you recognize it and you turn from that, that is how you know you're a Christian. But alas, not in America. They blame Biden. Yeah, they need a Oral Roberts University. Yeah, add that to the list. Yeah, they blame Biden. Look at again, if you want to be a Christian, stop scapegoating anyone else. Take it upon yourself to always be repenting. That's Jesus and Paul, in my mind. Bob Jones University is blaming the FAFSA and Biden administration, not their evil behavior on the board. My kids are deconstructing on BJU campus. Yeah, they're not going to ever look and be like, hey, maybe it's y'all who won't let women preach. Maybe it's y'all who say all are welcome, asterisk, conditions apply, you must be straight, cis, etc. Maybe they're looking at, hey, you support the Trump administration, and he's the most antichrist figure we can think of in politics since goddamn, I don't know, Mussolini, Hitler. Like, he's very, like, maybe it's some of your behavior. Like, if you, this is the problem. This is, and we're running up on the hour. This is the problem with people who critique deconstruction is they don't listen to those who deconstruct. Like, none of us have said, I wanted to deconstruct. No one ever said I chose to deconstruct. No one said that I did it because it's cool, because now I can sin and now I can go do gay stuff. Or no one said that, oh, now I can just go do this and that. No, we deconstructed because it happened to us. We lost most everything, most of us. We went through extreme existential dread half the time. It causes religious trauma syndrome for a lot of people. It causes us to not trust other people. But yes, tell us all about why we deconstructed. No, you got to listen to us to hear why are we leaving the church? Why is there none and dones? Don't tell us why, ask us why, because we're the ones who are doing it. I played worship music on every, you know, that in baseball, the utility player who played every position, at least you look at their stats and they might have been a shortstop, but they also played third base when needed. They also played second base when needed. They even caught in my high school career, I was a shortstop and a pitcher. I caught 2 innings. I played third base. I played second base. I played outfield. I DH'd when I couldn't run, but I could hit because I had a bad knee for a couple games. So I played first base. That's what I was in worship. I played bass and guitar and drums, and so I would rotate. I was there all the fucking time. And then I deconstructed. I didn't want to. I liked that life. So if you want to know why we're deconstructing and leaving the church, why don't you just ask us? We weren't trying to run away from nothing. We were the most devoted. We've talked to on this show so many people who were like big time worship leaders or big time pastors, and people we gotten private messages from. Hey, I'm deconstructing. I'm still a pastor. It's not because it's cool. Go listen to us if you want to know. Julie says, my kids see the toxicity now. Good. Karen's so proud of them. Fantastic. I was kicked out of the church, Julie says, for divorcing my abuser. The best thing ever. That's another thing. You're only allowed to divorce for certain things, and abuse is not one of them. And that's how you know we need to go outside the Bible to judge things. Like, the Bible doesn't say you can't leave the abuser, so it's not allowed. It's like, no, we need to divorce ourselves from needing the Bible to say something before we make a decision. And I'm going to get going soon, but I'm going to get to these last two comments. Do it, dear, but we were indoctrinated a lot not to listen to those evil people in church. Yes, that's how they keep you there. Propaganda and indoctrination. Julie says, I lead the music in my church too, but I filed for divorce, so I couldn't serve. Damn, that was bad. Yeah. And if you're a woman, you can't be called a pastor in one church. You got the church I used to go to, they had a woman on staff. She was the musical director. But if she was a woman, she would have been the worship pastor. But then that's what the men were. And then excuse me. Then she had to be called the music director because women couldn't be pastors in that church. I found this out years ago. That's just the way it is in these churches, which is why if any of those churches you're a part of, do not be a part of that. That's my advice. In Animal Farm, all the animals are equal, but some are a little more equal. And if that's your church, when they say all are welcome, conditions apply. All are and welcome are all defined differently by them. All right, well, we're hitting an hour. I'm going to get going. I got to get to the farm. I got chicken beds to build and all that stuff. Again, Reading Romans Right comes out in less than a month. If you're not on that launch team, please send me a message. Hit me up. Put it in the comments right now, and I'll take a note of that. If you want to be on that launch team, that'd be great. We want to get this book out there to as many people as we can. Doa Dear, thanks for listening. Thanks for the comment, Julie, Karen. Who else was commenting? Doa Dear, Peggy, Elaine, everyone else who I missed. Appreciate you. Julie would like to be, let's see here. Julie would like to be on the team. I'm going to make a note right now. We're going to add you to the Facebook group. And all the pertinent information is in there. Doa Dear says she read it. Get on the team. Well, thank you. Peggy, conditions apply in every church I've attended. Same. I haven't gone to church in like 10 years. Unless this is your church, then no conditions. Well, there's always conditions. Like, you can't come on here and tell me Drake is better than Kendrick. Karen also says, send me the launch team info. Done. Consider it done. It'll probably be later today, folks. All right. And if you're listening, I know you're not listening live, but if you're listening on the podcast, then you can email me at matthew@choir.com. And or you could find the Reading Romans Right Facebook group on Facebook. I'd like to be added. Nathan, yes, what's up? I will add you for sure. Nice to see you. I got y'all. And now I am, as the Brits say, I'm going to piss off. And we'll see you on Tuesday for the main show and next Friday for the bonus show. Love y'all. Thanks for listening. Appreciate it. Let's see if we can bring the worship band back on. Oh, he was just finishing up. Maybe he'll start over. There we go. All right. We'll see y'all.